Okay, welcome. This is Major Paul Evangelista, and this is going to be a brief tutorial that discusses how to use some logic functions in Excel. The ones we're going to focus on are the if, and or functions, but we'll also talk a little bit about offset, correl, which is the correlation function, and cover a few other tidbits. And the way that we'll do this is by working a problem of building an Excel matrix, or I'm sorry, a correlation matrix in Excel. So why don't we go ahead and get started. I'm going to pull up some data. Okay, and just to familiarize you with the data that you have in front of you, this is data from an Army experiment where they're trying to actually decelerate 155 millimeter rounds, and they do that by decelerating these rounds through a series of tubes that essentially catch the rounds. They call it a soft catch system. So what you see is the system shot, which is essentially an index number in column A. The water column is an amount of water that they actually put in the tubes to help decelerate the round. The pressure is the air pressure in a pressurized section of the tubes. The mass is the mass of the projectile. The m_VEL is the muzzle velocity. KE in column F is the kinetic energy of the round. The temp is simply the temperature in Fahrenheit, ambient temperature that is. Humidity is a percentage. Barometric pressure is in column I. Charge, that is the charge size that's launching the round. Max 1 being the lowest velocity and max 6 being the highest velocity. And then the last column, column K, is a recovery location number, which indicates where the round was recovered. 0 being that it stopped before its desired braking section. 1 means that it stopped within the desired braking section. And 2 means essentially that it launched out of the tubes into the sand and was beyond the braking section. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove a certain portion of these shots that are fired. You can tell that there's 216 shots in total, and right now I'm only interested in the max 3 and the max 5 shots. So the way that I'm going to get rid of the max 1 and the max 6 shots, there's a number of ways you could do it, but just to illustrate the logic to start with, is I'm going to type equals if. And you see, one of the nice things with Excel is as soon as you type a function, you get a number of the options that are listed below here. And some of these are hot linked, such as the logical test here, and such as the function itself. And if you click on it, let's say I click on the function, you'll get the help menu that comes up, and you can explore for yourself the built-in help that Excel offers. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to type if J2 equals max 1. Okay, and what I'm going to need here is I'm going to need an OR function. I'm going to put the OR in front of the J2 because I'm going to have a series of logicals that I want to be flagged essentially if they are true. And one of them is max 1. Okay, and the other one is if J2 equals max 6. And the other one I'm going to put in here too is if the water is 0, because there's a belief that when the water is 0, that was actually an error in recording. So I'm going to go ahead and type B2 equals 0. So the way that OR function works is that it returns essentially a true value if any of those statements, those logical statements in there, are true. Now, obviously, if we used an AND function as opposed to an OR function, every single one of those arguments would have to be true. So now I'm going to just simply use kind of a binary response, if you will, and I'm going to put a 1 here if it's true, a 0 if it's false, and I will complete that argument. Go ahead and copy that down. Okay, and what you'll see is that anywhere that we have a max 3, a max 6, or 0 water level, you're going to have a 0 in this column L. And then what I'm going to simply do is I'm going to just sort. I'm going to sort by column L, and I'm going to just cut out all of the columns, or all of the cells that have a 1. Scroll down to the bottom here. Here they are. Okay, so once again, this is everything that's a charge 1, 6, or has 0 water level. I'm just going to delete that, get rid of it. Okay, so that's just kind of a quick demonstration of the if function and the or function as well. Now let's do something I think is a little more interesting, and that is the actual calculation of the Excel, or the correlation matrix. So I'm going to highlight these headers. I'm going to bring them over here. And then under the paste special menu, one of the things that you can use is a transpose function. So transpose is just simply a matter of turning a matrix or a vector on its side. So you can see it very nicely paste that row as a column. And that's what I was after. Now I'm going to put an index up here, and it'll be apparent to you in a bit when I use the offset function what this index is for. So let me put that up here. And once again here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually calculate the correlation between these different columns that exist over here. So for this particular correlation matrix, you have 11 variables, so the matrix itself is going to be 11 by 11. So that's 121. Not a huge number, but you don't want to calculate 121 correlations by hand. So what we're going to take advantage of is this offset function. So the first thing I type in here is equals coral, and that's again the coral function, which accepts 2 arrays as the argument, and it calculates the correlation between those arrays. But now what I need to do is I need to tell it which arrays I want to associate, because it's going to change from cell to cell. So I'm going to use offset. Okay, I'm going to anchor on cell A1, and I'm going to hit F4 to lock that in. So the rows function is simply the number of rows that I want to include. And let's just check this out. I believe that's going to be 196 rows. So under rows, I want 196. Or actually, no, my mistake. It's going to start at row 1. Okay, 196 is going to be the height. For columns, however, this is where I'm going to use this index that I created. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab the index over here that is in N3, and I'm going to lock in N. And the reason I'm going to lock in N is because I need that column index, or that N column, for every single one of the indexes that's referenced over there. And I believe we said 196 for our height. Our width is going to be 1. So when you use offset to reference an array, you have to give it a height and a width. And the row and column simply tells it where to start. So that's the first array. And then the second array, very similar construct. Again, A1, I'm going to lock it in. Okay, rows, again, is 1. Columns, this time, is going to be referenced up here. Okay, and for this I'm going to lock in the number of rows. Okay, the height once again is 196 because that's the length of the array, and the width is 1. Okay, I hit enter and I get 1, which is exactly what I should get, because the correlation of any variable with itself is always going to be 1. Okay, I can go ahead and I can drag that down, and I can drag that across. And the reason I can drag it down and across so nicely is because I locked in those cells as I should have. So again, you lock in the first row up here because you're always using that index in the top row, and the same goes for this column over here. You lock this column N in because you're always using that particular column for your offset. Now you look and we have a problem. So it appears that charge is not calculating correctly, and when we look over here at the charge column, we notice there's actually some text in there. So one useful trick to get rid of some redundant text like that is just to use the replace function. I'm I'm going to replace max with a space, and I'll replace it with nothing. And all that does is it just deletes it all. So it went ahead and it made 196 replacements. I'm going to close it, and there you have it, a nice looking correlation matrix, a little bit of formatting perhaps. Probably only need 2 significant digits, and that'll be sufficient. A little bit easier to read. The other thing I like to do with correlation matrices is I like to give them some color formatting. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create my own scale here. Why don't we just go with a 3-color scale, and we can go from red to green. That's fine. I know that the lowest value actually I'm going to give it a number. My mistake. I know that the number that I want is the lowest value is -1. The midpoint that I want is 0, and then the highest value, which is also a number, you just got to select number so you can input there. It's going to be 1. Okay, you hit OK, you click outside of it, and there you have a relatively nice looking correlation matrix, color coded so that some of the more extreme numbers jump out at you, and it's a little bit more aesthetic. So that was a brief overview of a few logic functions, if as well as or. Talked a little bit about and then we built the correlation matrix. Thank you for your time. Hopefully this was helpful.